It's time. It's time for the Billy Flynn Experience.
Thank you so much for joining us once again to the Billy Flint Experience. I am your host, Billy Flint, and you're coming live here in Germany. Got some breaking news. I thought it would be very interesting if I come on tonight to discuss the craziness of the world that we're living in. Once again, thank you so much for joining us here live in Germany, in Kaiserslautern, Germany. Thanks so much, because you could be doing other things, but you are here with me live. We're going to get right into the news, the breaking news, I should say. And this is coming, actually, from what happened this past Sunday. Tragic news coming out of Texas in the United States. Of course, we're talking about the incident that happened at the megachurch, Joel Osteen's Megachurch. I don't know if I can actually say it, but I'm just going to say it. The shooting that took place over the Sunday service. And I think this particular news kind of went over everybody's head, or at least the subject involved. The subject that is involved in the shooting. The name, of course, Janice Yvonne Marino, 30 or 35-year-old, as it was reported, young lady goes into the church, a Sunday service, with a 5-year-old child. No one knows as if the child was hers or not, but she goes in with an AR type rifle. Excuse me. And decides to shoot up the Sunday service. Now, of course, she was apprehended and incidentally was unalived. So first of all, I would like to say, and I'm going to skate through this. I'm going to talk about this very, very lightly. I'm going to choose words very lightly because it is a very, very sensitive subject matter. And what I mean by subject matter is because once the news broke, it was sketchy at best. But upon digging and doing further reading, and what made this whole situation interesting to me was there were undercover, or I want to say undercover cops, but I don't know if it was undercover cops or whether they were off-duty cops or police officers that were there, but they were saying that there were police officers that were there at the church, and they were there, I guess, guarding a mega church. And that was the first thing that really kind of took me for a surprise, is that they were, well, at least when I was going to church, when I lived in Atlanta, during the time that I was living in Atlanta, I don't remember ever being police officers at church or guarding, or I don't even remember or even seeing guards at church, inside the church. Of course, maybe in the parking lot, but not inside of the church. But anyways, they were armed officers inside of the church, which apprehended the person involved in the shooting. Now, what other people didn't know, of course, and this is coming from AP News. I'm going to read exactly. And it says, okay, well, for one, they said the victims. And then again, the prayers go out to this young child that was involved. 7 years old, actually, not 5, but it says 7 years old. Is in critical condition, and our prayers and well wishes goes out to the child and the child's family. And of course, another gentleman was injured, but the report said that he has made a full recovery. But what's a shocker is that it says what is known about the shooter. And again, I'm going to approach this very, very, very careful because of the subject matter. Okay. So it says, what is known about the shooter? Authorities said Marino had a history of mental illness, including being placed under emergency detention in 2016. Okay. And it also says, but provided no other detail. It says Houston Police Commander Chris Hastings said Marino sometimes used, and this is, again, I'm going to take my time with this. Be very careful with the words that I choose. It says Marino sometimes used both male and female aliases. But he said investigators determined through interviews or interviewers and past police reports that Marino identified as female. Authorities said investigators were looking into disputes involving Marino and the family of Marino's ex-husband. Police said Marino legally purchased in December the AR-15 style rifle that was used in the shooting. Marino was also carrying a .22 caliber rifle. Investigators also found anti-Semitic writings by the shooter. And Hastings noted Marino's rifle had a Palestine sticker on the buttstock. He described Marino as a lone, which he described Marino as a lone wolf who was not acting as any part of a larger group. Okay. So as it says that Marino identified as both or used aliases of both male and female. Now, I guess I would take it that this individual was a transgender. And it states again that it in the past had mental health issues dating back to 2016. Now, what makes this very interesting to me is that how the news is also approaching this and kind of like walking lightly over the news. Excuse me, because I guess I'm gathering that they don't want to offend anyone, because dating back also 2023, March 31st, which is almost a year ago, there was another incident that took place in Tennessee where 3 children and 3 adults were unalived. By again, at the time of the investigation, that they didn't know that the individual was a transgender. It was thought to be a woman, but actually it was a transgender. A man or a man identifying as a woman and I'm trying to find the right words. Made the transition into a woman. And of course, they didn't know it at the time of the investigation, and then later they found out that the shooter in that Tennessee incident, school shooting, the individual was a transgender. Now, again, it's not to blame anyone from any particular group, race, religion, sexual orientation, but the one thing that stuck out, or that they kept really repeating over and over again, was the fact that the individual in the Joel Osteen Megachurch shooting was struggling with mental health issues. So, I don't know whether it's because there's been medical reports linking depression and other mental health issues, linking to some of the medicine and prescriptions that are needed for people who trans or individuals who and again, I must say again, I'm using my words very lightly, with respect, but it is something that needs to be talked about, because it's a situation that this sort of occurrence could continue, or it could happen again. But again, that's breaking news. And once again, I would like to say again that prayers and well wishes goes out to the family. It's a shame that a child had to be involved. And on a side note, they are still trying to investigate at the two, or the child and the gentleman that was involved in the shooting. They're trying to figure out on which end, was it the shooter or was it the cops? And they don't know, so they're not really saying much. They're not really letting that aspect of the investigation out in the public. If you keep hearing that bell, that is my puppy running around in the background. So again, that is breaking news coming out of Texas. And in other news, of course, we have another shooting that took place in New York. And this is amongst the, as they are called, migrant asylum seekers, refugees, or whatever they're calling them, but the individuals that have arrived in New York over the past months seeking shelter. And what they're having problems with is the migrants attacking not only the tourists and other New York citizens, but also the cops. Well, the individual that was involved in the shooting at the JD shoe store in Manhattan has been apprehended in Yonkers. And because of the fact that this is a youth involved, that they are not going to release the individual's picture. But the individual, and this is coming from the NBC News, and it says 15-year-old Times Square shooter suspect taken into custody in Yonkers. Teenager was arrested Friday in connection with a shooting that wounded a tourist in New York City's Times Square on Thursday night. It was a manhunt for most of the day before U.S. Marshals found the 15-year-old at a home on Saratoga Avenue in Yonkers. NBC News or NBC New York is not naming the suspect because he is a juvenile. Okay, it says they're not naming it, but further down in the article, they actually name the gentleman, which is pretty funny. But I'm not even gonna go really into that. But I find it disheartening because what is New York police doing? I mean, really. I mean, and there's been footage of it was another news footage that a couple of New York police officers were attacked by some of these migrant refugees, asylum seekers, whatever they call them. And it got me to thinking, like, okay, and I understand this is a worldwide issue because it's the same thing here in Europe. It's the same thing here in Germany. Maybe about 8 years ago when Angela Merkel was the president here in Germany, and she was allowing refugees to seek shelter here in Germany. And of course, these were the Syrians, or they were from Syria. And the same thing was happening here in Germany. And the same thing was happening in Italy, and the same thing was happening in France. The same thing is happening in the UK. Now, understand that with world turmoil and the war that is taking place now between Ukraine and Russia, that there are people seeking refuge away from the war, which is understandable. Of course, the Ukraine and the Russian war is something totally different. That is a terrible thing that's taken place. But we're talking about the fact that a lot of the situation that's taking place in New York is happening all over the world. And again, I understand that when wars take place or devastations happen in different countries, that the world come together and take in the people that need shelter or need a place to live, and which is fine. But this that's taking place in New York, it's almost an embarrassing because these are the New York police. It seems as though the New York police and the mayor and this whole debacle that's taking place, it seems like they don't know what they're doing. It seems like they don't know what the hell they're doing. And it got me thinking about, and I don't want to make this a racial issue or a conspiracy theory, but you have to address the elephant in the room. And I'm going to address it because I'm concerned at how in the hell that they can let something like this happen. When going back 10 years, how a lot of Black Americans were being gunned down and killed by police. Need we ever forget Eric Gardner, Michael Brown, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor? I mean, I can go on and on and on and on. And these people, when it was taking place, because it seemed as though it was a trend that was happening. But when this stuff was taken, when these shootings were taking place, and most of the white liberals were saying, well, if they would only abide by the demands of the police and abide by the laws, this would not happen, and blah, 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 blah. But I don't remember any one of these individuals attacking the police. But you have these migrants attacking police, citizens, tourists, in all places, Manhattan, New York. Now, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not into that. But it almost makes it seem as though that they are allowing these migrants, and out of all places, New York, for a reason. I'm going to leave that there. I'm not going to get too deep into that. But I just found it, again, very disheartening when I started reading more about this story. And then it just popped up in my head about the other, again, Black Americans that have died at the hands of the police. Americans, born and raised in America. I'm going to leave that right there. But again, thank you so much for listening to the breaking news that is taking place from Texas. Again, we'd like to send our prayers and well wishes to the families of the individuals that were involved in the shooting. The 7-year-old child, which is still in critical condition, but we are hoping that he makes a full recovery. But our prayers go out to this child that was involved, which is very tragic. And of course, the other man that was involved in the shooting, which reports said he has made a complete recovery from that. But again, thank you so much for listening. We will be back with you again soon. This is the Billy Flint Experience. I am Billy Flint, and you are coming here live from Germany. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great and wonderful day.